Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the potential Trump indictment. My thoughts on it: is it justice? Is it lawfare? Using the law for warfare. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and let's talk about the alleged Trump indictment. All right. A couple of things I think about it. I mean, there are some surrounding events that people may tie to it. Um, I think they are tangentially related, but not necessarily the cause, right? One is, and you can look at this recently. Donald Trump's been, yelling the anti-war stuff. He's been saying we've got to end the war in Ukraine. If I were the president, I would end it in 24 hours. I didn't start any wars. And then recently he said, we've got to, if you let me back in office, I'll get rid of all of the warmongers in the State Department. The deep state's got to be redone. I mean, he's doing the JFK business, right? We're going to do away with the CIA. Within weeks, he's charged. He looks to be indicted. So would it be unreasonable to relate those things? Yes and no, in that if that were the first thing that had happened, if he had not done anything to upset the deep state, upset the machine in the past, yeah, sure, he would be freaking them out. But because this is a part of a continuing, pattern, as they say in law, a pattern, right? He has a pattern of saying things that go against the warmongers, that go against the deep state, that go against the good old-fashioned American exceptionalist, the warmongering, lying, globalist American exceptionalist. Now, keep in mind something. I'm not a Trump fan or a Trump supporter. I don't, as far as I'm concerned, Garland is concerned, we have two parties in the United States, and they're both captured by the same corporate entities. They're both warmongering parties. They're both cults. And as far as I'm concerned, if you look at the way the people in these parties often act, they're cults. All their leaders have to do is point them in the direction and tell them a country to hate. And if you are the Democrats and they tell you hate Russia and Putin's evil, you'll hate Russia. If you're the Republicans and they say no, that's absurd. These idiots, these lunatics saying hate Russia. Why, it's China you should hate. Well, then you'll go right along with whoever your cult leader tells you. I don't go along with cult leaders. The government does not give me my enemies. That's the thing about the Republicans and the Democrats, both. Not to get distracted, but I think it's necessary to make this point. If the government is giving you your enemies, the very people that have been lying to you, misleading you, mistreating you, dogging you out, taking all your money and take every dime from the working class and giving it to the rich people. And then they tell you, look over there, it's Russia, and you believe that, or look over there, it's China, and you believe that. Yeah, well, you kind of deserve what you got coming to you, sadly. A nation, it's been said that a nation of sheep begets a government of wolves. If you can, in this day and age, allow your government to point you in the direction of Russia or China as the evil empire, and you can't see that both parties are being had in the exact same way by the exact same people, then you kind of got what you got coming. You kind of deserve what you got coming. If you're that sheepish and cult-like, I'm not, okay? That's why I want to start there. So as far as I'm concerned, the idea that I support Trump or Biden or any of these other clowns is not even a thought in my mind. Now let's move forward with this. So Donald Trump infuriates, let's just call it like it is. He infuriates the deep state. I do believe, if you look at Donald Trump's first, let's evaluate. And this stuff is important if you're going to evaluate these charges. This is critical to me if you're going to evaluate these charges. You got to start off by looking at Donald Trump's first, and I say first, his administration, first, second, third. I don't know if he's going to get a second, but whatever. His administration. He came in. He was very green, extremely green. wet behind the ears, as they say. And so he simply allowed the people with power to tell him who to put in. So he's stuck in the worst of the worst. I mean, the worst. He's stuck in John Bolton of all ungodly, inhuman demons. Mike Pompeo, a nutcase fruitcake. I would say he was a Taliban, but I wouldn't upset the Taliban like that. They seem to have a lot much more sense than Mike Pompeo. He is a complete fruitcake. Then, if that ain't bad, he brings in Elliot Abrams, an old war crime murderous ghoul from the 1980s. I mean, Trump said he was going to drain the swamp, and he swamped the drain. So when he came in, he was green. He just did what he was told and brought in the most warmongers on earth. Somehow, Donald Trump went against that in some ways. If you remember, he tried to get a deal with Kim Jong-un, and Bolton stuck a knife in that, stopped it, right? He made sure that didn't happen. So Trump brought in the people around him. I'm sure he was told who to bring in, and those people that he brought in made sure that he didn't do anything that the machine didn't want him to do. But he did make some noise that the machine didn't want him to make. That's a fact. And he made it clear that he wasn't one of them in some ways. In some ways he was. He signed the biggest tax cut for corporations and billionaires in history. And that's what every president did. That's what Reagan did. He had a bunch of people around him from Goldman Sachs and those kinds of places. Clinton, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs. Oh, what do you know? Bush, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs. Obama, cabinet loaded with J.P. It's the same game. Trump, same thing. Right? So there was nothing different in that he was green, and he brought in he was from New York. He dealt with a lot of these Wall Street people. He brought them in like everybody else. So I'm not trying to say he was some, the second coming of Eugene Debs or something like that, that he was FDR by any stretch of the imagination, because he wasn't. He was in a lot of ways, he put neoliberalism on steroids, but a lot of it was green. He was green too. So what happens? He pushed back. He pushed back against North Korea. He pushed back against NATO. He pushed back against the Russia stuff. So while he went along with a lot of the Zionist stuff, while he went along with a lot of things that were pretty atrocious, the Cuba stuff, the Nicaragua stuff, a lot of horrible crap he went along with. But there was simply, here's the bottom line, there were some areas that he pushed back that the machine does not like, and they will not have him back in. So I suspect, and here's the key. And I think you have to view what happened now through the lens of the nonstop investigations against Trump the whole time he was in. I mean, they just investigated him nonstop. He was impeached twice, and meanwhile, an entire element of society was created, right? That was just frothing at the mouth anti-Trump. That somehow these people were taught, this class of people, this liberal class was taught, you will get a dopamine rush if bad things happen to Trump. That's what they were taught. And it got to a point where it was a physical metaphor. They turn on the TV, and when somebody said the walls are closing in on Trump, they'd get a dopamine rush. When somebody would say, I think Trump's going to get it now, Trump's going to get it now. They didn't know what to do with themselves. They were overjoyed. They didn't even know why. There was nothing in it for them. There's never anything in it for them. But they're told, if Trump is your enemy, and if something bad happens to your enemy, then you should be happy about it. There's something in it. You have won. Now, right now, do you think this class of people, the rabid anti-Trumpers, do you think they're worried about nuclear war? No concern of theirs. Do you think they're concerned about the U.S. going to war with China or Russia, which will obviously end in nuclear annihilation of all humankind? That's the least of their concerns. They could care less. Could care less. You think they're worried about the banks, like pretty much all of our major banks being insolvent right now, that if people started taking their money out, they'd all crash, that they're all in the process of crashing, that Paris is on fire and Germany's falling apart, that no, none of that. That the U.S. is threatened to go to war with Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran at the same time. Not interested. They got bigger fish to fry here. Trump's indicted. Trump stands to be indicted. And that's the only thing in their world that matters. They have been trained like Pavlov's dogs to salivate at the wrong bell. So at any rate, let's read what we got. What I'm reading is this. According to some sources, Trump was indicted by a grand jury on Thursday over an alleged scheme to pay $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, an adult film actress who claimed she had an affair with the ex-president via his then lawyer, Michael Cohen, in 2016. The scheme was meant to stop Daniels from going public about the sexual encounter, which Trump denies ever took place. I will start by commenting on that. Anybody remember a guy named Herman Cain, the 999 guy? You remember what happened? If they found out that he had some pretty girl on the side, of course, he's a multi-millionaire. And if he's got a girl on the side, she's probably going to be pretty girl on the side. I remember watching the video. She's like, he helps me with bills and he helps me. Come on. None of us are dumb. We all know what time it is. You're gorgeous and he's rich. And those two things go together. And it is almost axiomatic, self-evident in New York, in Washington, D.C., in professional sports. Come on. Some woman marries a professional athlete and she knows this guy's going from city to city and every beautiful, unthinkable woman in the world is throwing herself at him every day. I'm not saying that he's going to fool around on her, but I'm saying she knows that she married a professional athlete. So she knows that the options are there. And if for some reason he takes them out, those options, not saying he shouldn't. But if he does, she can't grab her chest and fall to the floor with a heart attack and think to myself, my God, whoever saw that coming, right? Let's be honest about this. We're all adults. And if you ever been around a lot of very, very wealthy people, you know the rules. You know what I mean? We all know you're around a bunch of very, very wealthy people. These rich guys, they have hot babes on the side at times. My office is right on K Street, right around the corner from the White House, right? And so, you name it, all of the big PR firms, all of the big lobbying firms, all right along there, right? And the women that work in those offices on K Street, stand out there on any given day, they are drop dead model actress gorgeous, walking up and down K Street all day long. And the way some of them are dressed, I mean, you don't know if it's their skirt or a belt. The skirts are so short and so tight, right? And everybody understands what's going on K Street. Come on. What do you think these guys hire? They hire these women for a number of reasons. Because when people come to the office, they want them to be greeted by beautiful women because they want that to help enhance the possibility that they'll get the customer, right? And not only that, they like to be around beautiful women and they are loaded. These guys are loaded. And I would imagine every now and then, a few dollars slips through somebody's hands and the secretary or whoever is on a trip to them to Dubai, wherever, cash is in her hand, her bills are paid, her new car is delivered. You know the rules. Come on, let's none of us play stupid here. The idea that in Washington, D.C. or New York City, these two power centers of the world, that some guy slipped an adult film woman 130 grand to keep her mouth shut, that's suddenly something that is shocking to the conscious. You ever heard of Epstein? You know what I'm saying? You ever heard of Epstein? What's up with Gates flying around on his plane, Bill Clinton's back and forth on his plane, everybody's on Bill Epstein's plane. At least she was old enough to, she was over the age of 18. Okay, Stormy Daniels was a grown woman. And if she wanted to do whatever she wanted to do, and she wanted to cash it in for $130,000, I ain't hating on her. And if Trump had $130,000 and that's the way he elected to spend his money, look, probably not the best thing to do. He's got a beautiful wife and he probably should be with her. But It's his $130,000. And if his wife wants to leave him when it comes out, that's between him and his wife. She might want to stay. She might want to leave. To me, that's the moral discussion here. The moral discussion is he's got the money. Stormy Daniels has the body. She gets the money. He gets the sex. Now he's got a wife. It comes out. His wife can leave him and walk away, or she can stick around. Everybody's adults here. They can make their decisions. I ain't mad at Stormy Daniels for taking the loot. I ain't mad at Trump for spending the loot. I ain't mad at Melania for making whatever decision she made to stay or not stay. We're all adults. But the idea that we're the people that are going after him, the Biden people. You ever heard of Hunter Biden? Here's Joe Biden, the guy who, according to his daughter's diary, took inappropriate showers with his daughter. These are the people that are going after Trump for moral issues? Really? I mean, it makes my mouth burn to say what this kind of crap that, these Epstein plane flying bastards are doing. Right or wrong? Ghislaine Maxwell, where the heck is her list of clients? Prince, whatever his stinking name is, over in England. This guy there, the royal family's paying some loot. Meanwhile, the people in England can't afford to live. This guy's flying around with Epstein. Some of these young girls were like 15, 16, or like, yeah, this guy was doing this and that. What was it? The one woman, the blonde-haired girl. Pictures of this guy, Prince, whoever, Andrew, with his arm around her, right? A pretty 16-year-old girl. He's got his arm around her. I put my arm around a 16-year-old girl. Hi, to hug a friend or a relative, but not like that. But most of people on this, like chat, we're not pedophiles, for God's sake. We ain't going after these 16 with the Epstein crew. That's probably on the old side. They probably looked at her like, she's 16. She's a little long in the tooth, don't you think there, Jeffrey? Can you get me something 4 or 5 years younger? These are sick people. And yet, we still don't know where Ghislaine Maxwell, who's on her list. How come we can't see that? So the idea that Trump is some moral degenerate, at least they were grown. So the idea that people are thumbing their nose at this guy for what happened with Stormy Daniels, I ain't even trying to hear that. I don't even want to go there. That's something. We're all adults here, and we know far better than that, right? We've all seen all kind of stuff. I was a cop. I know 2 guys who literally, they found out these guys were like work together, right? So the 2 guys found out that they were fooling around with each other's wives. The same couple. They didn't even know. So then they got a divorce and they just switched wives and husbands. And it was weird, but I'm like, they're adults. I guess they figured a way to work, at least nobody got killed or anything. They figured a way to work it out. I ain't getting involved. You know what I mean? I don't want to know about it, right? That's the way I see about life. I'm not judging people morally. It's people's lives. However they live, that's the way they live. I'm not here. Just make sure there ain't children. This whole Epstein thing is a problem, right? Look, and they want to go to Trump, and they're like, Trump would be indicted. Trump should go to jail. Do you know how this Epstein story started? Do you remember this? It was because there was someone in Trump's cabinet who was questioned about Epstein because Epstein got this sweetheart deal. If you remember, in Florida, he got caught trafficking children, prostitution, which if you're Epstein, that's just what you do, right? And he got this a year probation, and he was supposed to be weekends in jail, but he only had to go 8 hours or something, and then he could leave and spend it in his mansion. And in other words, he got a slap on the wrist for child prostitution kind of stuff in 1 year, and then he went back to what he was doing. And the guy said, I was told that because people ask him, how could you let this happen? And the guy said, look, I was told he's intelligent, leave him alone. And at that point, when he was coming into the Trump administration, and the government just went, oh, okay, we're good then, never mind. So the government was like, hey, how come you gave that sweetheart deal to a pedophile? I was told he's intelligent. Oh, an intelligence pedophile. Oh, God. You mean Jeffrey? Oh, My bad. Oh, sorry about that. I don't even forgive me for even asking you that question. We owe you one on that. We'll let that one go. Okay. And if you believe that Ghislaine Maxwell is behind bars, well, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Do you really believe that she's rotting in a prison somewhere? I don't. I do not think that she's rotting away in a prison because she was intelligence. The Epstein thing was an intelligence operation. So the people involved, the people who are on the client's list, none of them are going to jail. I believe in equal protection under the law. They're going after Trump. Why? And here's what they say. This is what kills me, because no one is above the law. No one's above the law. Okay. George Bush and his whole cabal, they lied us into a war. He's not above the law. Should he be held accountable for that? He clearly violated the law. He deliberately, with malice and a forethought, lied to the American people to start a war. Nothing's happening to him. Oh, wait a minute. Let's remember Ronald Reagan. Do you remember the Iran-Contra affair? Violation of the law. And what did he say? I don't recall. I don't remember. I don't recall. And afterwards, Oliver North even said, I knew it was my job to be the one to take a spear in the chest. Ronald Reagan was not held accountable. In fact, his vice president, former CIA chief, who clearly was involved, wasn't held accountable. Right? Richard Nixon, which I might add, Richard Nixon, in my opinion, it was a setup because of that he opened up things with Beijing. But the bottom line was this: they made a deal with him for him to walk. He was not held accountable for anything. So we could go for president after president. Nobody's ever held accountable. Look, let me add this. If you look at what Hillary Clinton did with the servers, clearly, come on. Clearly, that was a violation of the law. What she did with the servers, 30, and then after the court said don't get rid of anything, and they erased 33,000 emails. Violation of the. Do I need to keep going? How about this guy named Kevin Kleinsmith? Look up Kevin Kleinsmith. You know what Kevin Kleinsmith did? During an investigation, during this Crossfire Hurricane investigation, the Trump-Russia hoax, fraud, illegal operation, deep state operation, right? This intelligence operation against Trump. During that, one of the things that happened was they got a email from the CIA that said, "Oh yeah," because they wanted to get tap Carter Page's everything. And his phones and all. And so they got an email from the CIA that said, Carter Page did work with us on blah, 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 right? So he was a lawyer for the DOJ. Look it up, Kevin Kleinsmith. He changed the email to say Carter Page did not work with us. So he took an email that he got from the CIA that said Carter Page did work with us and changed it to did not work with us. He then submitted that document to the FISA court to get a warrant so that they could snoop on Carter Page. He deliberately changed the information and lied to the FISA court. Do you know what happened to Kevin Kleinsmith? He got 1 year probation. They charged him. He went to court. He got 1 year probation. They didn't even disbar him. He didn't lose his ability to practice law. That's what happened to this guy. This guy deliberately altered evidence in an investigation that was against a guy who was running for president and eventually became president of the United States. He deliberately changed information, altered evidence, and then knowingly submitted that evidence repeatedly to the FISA court to get a warrant. Crime after crime after crime. That guy got 1 year probation. Nothing. He didn't even get a slap on the wrist. Need I go on and on? What about the Hunter Biden laptop? Has Hunter Biden been charged with anything? The last I heard, one of the things they said was one of the things they could have charged Hunter Biden with was the fact that he filled out a form for a firearm and he put in there that he didn't use drugs. Well, if you don't consider smoking crack 24 hours a day off some hooker's butt, if you don't consider that snorting it's cocaine and smoking crack all day, if you don't consider that drugs, clearly he lied. Now, I'm not for going after everybody for putting something false on every government foreign. Don't get me wrong. But if your argument that no one is that no one is above the law, then you got to look at you got to ask yourself, why is it that Hunter Biden's not charged for that? Why is he not charged for FARA violations? Right? Foreign Agent Registration Act, clearly, repeatedly, he was representing people from foreign governments. He was representing people from foreign countries repeatedly, over and over. He used that influence to work with the government, to make money, on and on and on. Never filled out a FARA form. How come he's not charged? If you're going to say no one is above the law, why did the FBI get Hunter Biden's laptop and sit on it for a year? And didn't even look into charging anybody or coming up with any crimes. So the idea that all of a sudden that the justice system is blind and pristine and they have to go after Trump because there's a violation there. What are they just going to overlook a violation? Let's not forget, the state is going after this violation. The federal government looked at that violation and elected not to act on it because they looked at it like, I don't think we got nothing there. The state grabbed it. Okay, we're charging Trump. There's something rotten here. Look, and if you argue, well, technically it's a violation of the law. Well, we don't know that. If the person is charged, and every person that is charged is considered innocent until proven guilty. But let's go on with this. Just because someone is a violation, has violated the law, means that you can and must charge them. That is false. That's absolutely false. Prosecutorial discretion. And that simply means a prosecutor can look at something and say, and for instance, in Maryland, in Montgomery County, the last few years, they said, we're not going to enforce marijuana laws. Marijuana is, pretty much practically legal. It'll be legal July 1st here. But the county said, look, we don't think it's worth our while to lock people up for weed. We ain't doing it. So they use prosecutorial discretion. That's what it's called. I used to teach this stuff, right? The prosecutor can say, we're not going to prosecute people for spitting on the sidewalk anymore. We're not going to prosecute people for doing certain things that we think we're not going to prosecute people for weed, whatever the case may be, even though it's still illegal and all that. We're, as a prosecutorial team, we have decided that we're going to use our discretion not to do it. So the idea that, let's not pretend that the state has no choice. That's what people want to pretend. Well, they have no choice. They found a violation. That's not true. Prosecutorial discretion says you do have a choice. And let me give you another example. Case we had in Maryland when I used to be with the ACLU. So, but there was a particular case, and it was a case about the police who were on 95. 95 is a major drug corridor on the East Coast, runs right through Maryland, right? And they were pulling people over and searching their cars, and about I forgot what it is, 90% of the drivers on that on 95 were white, and like 80% of the people they pulled over were Black or Latino, and that wasn't right. They saw a Black or Latino guy in a nice car, he's getting pulled over, right? And we had story after story about people. One guy I know very well, in fact, he's I think he's a judge now, and he was a lawyer at the time. He's riding down the road in a nice shiny new car. Police pull him over, take him out in the rain, search his car. Why? He was a Black guy with a nice car, obviously a drug dealer in their perspective, right? So we ended up with a lawsuit. And basically what we found was, so the policeman, I'm going somewhere, so listen to this. So what the police argued was, we pull people over because we follow them for 1.1 mile, just don't use the number of miles. And over that period of time, their right wheel touched the white line 4 times. And so that gives us, that means they could be drunk or under the influence. And that gives us probable cause to pull them over. So, and they had case law to support themselves, right? So we've got case law, we've got legal precedent that says if you see somebody's white line tire hit the white line on the side of the road 4 times over a period of 1.5 miles, I'm just using some numbers there, they're not the actually accurate numbers, that does constitute probable cause, and you can pull them over. So we met the standard for probable cause. Here's the problem, that is, and this is what we were able to prove in court. What we were able to, let me put it like this, because I don't remember if it was court or if it was in various briefs that we filed. But what we were able to successfully argue is, yes, that is true. You can say anybody whose tire hits the white line 3 times over a mile and a half, may be drunk and under whatever, Smitherton versus Ohio, that constitutes standard for probable cause. But you can't only use that against certain groups. You can't say when it comes to Black and Latino guys in late model Mercedes, we'll use it. When it comes to everybody else, we don't. So we're profiling this particular group. That's unconstitutional. You can't do that. And so therefore, we successfully made that argument in court. So you can't just say, well, because this guy appears that he might have violated the law, we have met the standard for probable cause or indictment, therefore we can indict him, because what you have now is selective prosecution. That's fine if you use that standard for everybody, but you just can't use that standard for certain people or one person. My argument against what's going on with Trump is, even if you argue that they have met the standard for prosecution for a grand jury, which is a low standard, there's a saying in law, you can, a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich, right? You can bring anything in front of a grand jury and get an indictment. So the idea that you got in front of a grand jury and you gave them enough to indict doesn't mean anything to me. But the question we have to ask is this selective prosecution? If in fact this were Joe Biden, if in fact this were Bill Clinton, if in fact this were Barack Obama, and you found out they'd done the exact same thing, would they be prosecuted? And I would argue the answer is a resounding no. They wouldn't. They would not. Look at it this. Let's look at something that happened in the last few months. We got stuff to talk about here. One of the things that happened in the last few months was, of course, nonstop investigations of Trump, nonstop, which again proves my argument that this is selective prosecution. But one of the things that happened is they raid Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago, and they say, aha, we found documents that are classified. We got him now. Trump's going to jail. Next thing you know, they look in Biden's place, and there are classified documents everywhere. Now, was there a hue and cry for Joe Biden? Excuse me, yawned a little bit. Was there a hue and cry for Joe Biden to be prosecuted, for him to be thrown out of office, for him to be impeached? Nope. Basically, what they said was this: oh crap! Now that we found Biden did it too, we can't charge Trump. We were planning on charging Trump, but now that we find that Biden did it, well, of course, hell, we ain't charging Biden. This was only for Trump. So now that did you notice? Did you notice? Am I the only one that noticed? Did you notice that disappeared? Did you notice that it was, we got Trump for classified documents? Wait a minute, Biden's got classified documents. End of story. The story disappeared out of the news. Find it in the news. Find an article on it anymore. Find an article on charging someone for classified documents. As soon as Biden showed up with classified documents, the argument went away. Why? Because they weren't going after Trump for classified documents. They were just going after Trump. And to me, when you look at the class of people that hate Trump, they are celebrating right now. Hooray, Trump's being indicted. Trump's going to jail. Really? Yeah. I haven't seen the indictment. Do you know what's in it? No. They don't know what's in it. They don't know 100% know he's going to be indicted, but they're pretty sure he is, and they're celebrating. And if you were to say to these people, do you think he's guilty? Of course he's guilty. He's Trump. You know the crimes he's committed. And if you were to say, so you don't know what the charge is yet. No idea what the charge is. You haven't had an opportunity to look at the evidence because you don't even know what the charge is. But you're sure he's guilty. You're sure he's guilty. Would that apply to Garland? If the police tomorrow came to you and if somebody said, well, Garland, the police charged Garland with something, we're not sure what it is, would you say, well, I know he's guilty? I know Garland's guilty. I know what he's charged with. but I know he's guilty? Or would you say, well, Garland's my friend. I think he deserves a fair trial. What's going on? Yes, you would. But you wouldn't do that for Trump because you don't like him. And to me, that exposes lawfare. That exposes the illegality. There's something wrong with it. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's like the First Amendment. The First Amendment is there to protect unpopular speech. You don't need the First Amendment to protect somebody standing on the corner screaming, I love America. But if somebody wants to stand on the corner and say, I hate America, I hate America's foreign policy, and burn a flag, right? Burn the president in effigy and stomp on a flag, pee on a flag, and light it on fire, right? That's First Amendment. That's protected speech. That's what has to be protected. Unpopular speech is what is protected by the First Amendment. You don't need the First Amendment to protect popular speech. You need the First Amendment to protect unpopular speech. And you don't demonstrate you're fair to me, that you're reasonable by saying, you know, as far as my friends are concerned, whenever my friends are charged with a crime, I feel like they should get a fair trial, and I want to look into it, and I want to say, hey, what the people that I like or support, I'm not thrilled with them getting charged. Well, don't charge Biden because everybody has classified documents. What about Trump and classified documents? Make sure you charge him. You see, that is lawfare. That is the opposite of so-called a democratic country. This is a democratic country. And what are you doing? In America, they are charging what I would call the leading opposition political figure right now. Right now, who's leading in the Republican polls for 2024? Trump is leading in the polls. He's the opposition party's leading candidate. And you're going after him because, as I understand it, he fooled around with some consenting adults. He slipped her some cash afterwards to keep her stinking mouth shut. She was happy to take the cash. And now you got to go after him. And it's like some technical crap. It's like, well, he put it down as legal expenses, when in fact it wasn't legal expenses. He was paying her to keep her mouth shut. So that's not legal expenses. Was it legal expenses? I don't know. If you put me on a jury, I'd say, yeah, that's a hairy kind of area. He paid his lawyer to slip some money to this babe so she'd keep her yap shut. Well, I'll put it like this. His lawyer was performing a service for him, and he paid the lawyer to do that. Apparently the lawyer gave her 130 grand and he reimbursed this guy, but I'm sure he had the lawyer on a retainer. So he's paying the lawyer. The lawyer's like, hey, here's 130. I got a deal with her. She'll keep her mouth shut for 130 grand. All right, give her the 130 grand. I'll hand it back to you Friday. Gives her the money, gives him the money Friday. I'm just saying. Not saying that was actually on a Friday. And now it's, he didn't properly write it down. He wrote that it was a legal expense. Well, number one, even if it was or wasn't, maybe he thought it was a legal expense. Maybe there was no intent there. Maybe Trump just thought, look, there are people right now, if you ask them, hey, man, if you gave your your lawyer some money to pay somebody off, is that a legal expense? There are a lot of people that would say, well, he's my lawyer. Of course it's a legal expense. I pay him to do that kind of stuff. He's a fix-it guy. And he knows it and I know it. He's a lawyer. If you're a lawyer for a rich guy, if you're a lawyer for wealthy clients, you know that your wealthy client's going to call you up sometime. Hey, I got a problem. What? Yeah, my secretary's pissed at me. Why? Oh, well, some things happened on a business trip, and she was supposed to get a new house, and she didn't get a new house, and now she's mad, and she's going to call my old lady and tell on me. But she told me if I give her a couple $100 grand, she'll keep her mouth shut. What do you want me to do? Get her the money. All right. Here's her cell phone. Call her. Get it taken care of. And the lawyer says, got it. That's what lawyers do. Those kind of things happen with a bunch of rich people. If you ever been around rich people, I have. Trust me, that is not the most unusual occurrence. And lawyers kind of know their job is to clean stuff up. You know, that sometimes rich guys can be obnoxious and screw things up, do things they shouldn't. And they call a lawyer and say, hey, let's say, I just say this. The guy comes in the house 2 o'clock at night, calls his lawyer, said, I know of something I know of happened. I know of this was years ago. I can tell you this for a fact. Some guy comes stumbling in the house at 2 o'clock at night, calls his lawyer and says, "Hey man, I was just driving home and around the corner, I've had a few drinks and I slammed into a neighbor's car a couple blocks away, and I fled the scene on foot, and I'm in the house. What do I do?" And his lawyer gives him a story. "Look, I want you to say that you came in the house and you were so upset and nervous that you had a drink. And that's how you had some drinks. So when the police get there and you got alcohol on your breath, just grab a beer and sit there and just say, I've been so nervous. I've been shaking that accident. I bumped my head. I have an injury. I'm not sure what's going on. And I had it." So the lawyer gives him a story, right? "I know of this occurrence." The lawyer knew, this is my client. He's been involved in maybe a little something that he shouldn't have. I'm a lawyer. He gave me a call. "Hey, dude, this is what you want to do. Let's clean this thing up. I'm going back to bed. Call me in the morning. We'll get this straight." Right? That's I mean, in saying that, do you think to yourself, well, what a terrible lawyer. That's wrong. Nah, I think to myself, this dude had loot. He greased the lawyer's palm every month for specifically that reason, so that if he had a problem, he could call the lawyer in the middle of the night and said, "I had a few drinks and I just slammed into a neighbor's car around the corner. Nobody's hurt, but I'm drunk. What do I do?" And his lawyer can tell him what to do and what to say. And the guy walked. He walked. Nobody was hurt. He walked. Somebody was hurt. It might have been a different story. Nobody was hurt. He walked. I think he had a little cut on his arm or something, right? Okay. So you think Cohen didn't know that his job was to pay off the Stormy Daniels of the world? And you think that everybody running around on K Street or in Georgetown and, wherever out on River Road and Potomac, you name it, Rye, New York, you think all of these guys don't have their own Michael Cohen to pay off their own version of Stormy Daniels? Get out of here with that. We all know how these games play. So now, all of a sudden, Trump is it's a joke. This is a joke. And that's why Trump says it's a banana republic, and I agree with him. This is, well, first of all, America has fallen into complete disrepair. America's deep and serious. It's falling, and these idiots are doing things that are going to crash the dollar. I mean, you got Biden and Blinken. The people that we have in charge of this country are farcically stupid and inept and incompetent. So much so now that they don't know what to do, because the people don't want their policies anymore, and they don't give a damn because they really don't like the peasants anyway. But they don't want things that look like Paris, where we're running through the streets burning stuff, which is kind of where this thing might be headed. What they're doing is they're going after Trump. But to me, the key is equal justice under the law. You don't charge Hillary when clearly she had violations of the law. You've suddenly forgotten that Biden had classified documents all over the place. Hunter Biden got no charges for him. The Bush family, they're things happen and wars get started. Reagan with the whole what do you call it? Iran-Contra affair. You think Clinton didn't pay off any babes? Yeah, really. So, I mean, remember the whole Jennifer Flowers story? So the bottom line is Tara Reid. I mean, there's story after story where these rich guys were involved with some women and some unseemly things happened, and maybe palms were greased. Okay. But the bottom line is, when it comes down to it, this is lawfare. They don't like Trump. And I think now they're at a point where they'll stop at nothing. And I do mean they'll stop at nothing to stop Donald Trump, because they know right now they're looking at what he's saying. And the truth is that the direction Donald Trump is going, which is this warmongering, these Victoria Newlands of the world, these crazies in the mad bombing, balloon shooting down idiots, are a problem and need to be replaced. That's basically what Trump's saying. You know, he's saying, look, these people are out, lost their minds. They're not good for the country and they need to be replaced. Now, I'm not a Trump fan by any stretch of the imagination, but you can't argue with that. And let me add this. Over the course of 2023 and 2024, trust me, that message ain't going to get weaker. As people get more and more tired of this Ukraine thing and they watch the banks, you know, come on, the banks are on the edge of collapse. Our economic system is on the edge of collapse. And, you know, Trump's going to be sitting there saying, I tried to tell you guys, right? Again, I'm no Trump fan, but I can see, I mean, I'm not blind like you. The bottom line is, it's not equal justice under the law to investigate Donald Trump from before he got president, nonstop, one investigation after another, after another. Oh, we got Mueller's going to get him. This guy's going to get him. Nonstop investigations, violations of law committed by the government during those investigations. Literally, they broke the law in investigating Trump. Kevin Kleinsmith was found guilty, a DOJ lawyer, for breaking the law in investigating Trump. So they went after Trump so much they violated the law. There were cover-ups everywhere in going after Trump. Nonstop. Since 2016, they've been investigating this guy. And finally, some guy in Manhattan or whatever the hell in New York comes up with the fact that Trump filled out some paperwork wrong. And that's what he gets. With all of the things we're seeing going on, nobody gets charged for it. For the Epstein people, nobody gets charged for starting wars. Nobody gets charged for anything. And then all of a sudden, you're getting Trump for the first president in the history of the United States who's been indicted for a crime because he technically said that wrote that he was paying his lawyer for legal fees, but it wasn't really legal fees. That is the standard we have met to go after the former president of the United States for the first time. That's it. What do you got him for? Well, we had to go after the president. Why? His tag light was out. His tag light was out. And not only that, we measured the tread in his tire and he only had 3/16 of an inch. By law, you got to have 5/16 of an inch of tread. This injustice must not stand. We charge the president of the United States with a tag light out and failure to have enough tread on his tire. I mean, that's really where we are. It's absurd. It's preposterous to me, these charges. And you know what they're for? So they can drag them out. We're going to drag them out. They're going to charge Trump, and this will go back and forth for month after month. And then they're going to say, well, we got some charges for him in Georgia. Let's charge him with this, and let's charge him with that. Charge after charge is coming with Trump because they're trying to stop. And I feel like this. It's a reflection. People are saying it's going to make the country more unstable. Nope. It reflects the instability that's already here. That's not, if an alcoholic takes another drink, that drink ain't going to make him alcoholic. It reflects the fact that he is an alcoholic because that's the nature of what alcoholics do. They take another drink. And the fact that we're charging the ex-president with the equivalent of a tag light out, to me, when it comes to in the overall scheme of things, is not turning us into a banana republic. It's reflecting that we are a banana republic. It's reflecting that our country, I mean, has gone to hell. It really has. And I got to add this. When you look at Ukraine, everything that you see there, first of all, let me add one other thing. There was no investigation of this. Have you ever heard of Sam Bankman-Fried and the FTX scandal? So what happened? The United States is pumping billions of dollars into the Ukrainian government, right? Ostensibly for war, to protect themselves from the evil Russians. The Ukrainian government is then taking millions and millions of dollars and investing it to FTX, a crypto scam. And miraculously, tens of millions of dollars are coming out of FTX and back into the Democratic Party. Does anybody say, what the hell is the Ukrainian government doing buying a crypto scam? Hey, what's going on? The Russians are surrounding Bakhmut. What do? I say we buy some more Bitcoin, Ethereum. Hey, Bitcoin's up 4% this month. And then that money goes into this crypto scam who has all of these back doors where he can get the money out. He draws the money out and sends tens of millions back to the Democratic Party. No investigation apparently necessary there. I mean, to me, uh, I'm not like a special prosecutor or anything, but I would think I could probably find something crooked there. Who would look at that and say, there ain't nothing crooked there? Billions of dollars, tens of billions, over $100 billion to the Ukrainian government for war. And they're investing in a crypto scam. But yet, Trump is charged a thorough investigation, and they found out that he paid off some babe that he apparently slept with, and he wrote down that it was legal expenses instead of paying off babes that just slept, porn stars that just slept with. And that's what we've got, that this country has got to act on with with great speed. And we're supposed to sit and say, yeah, well, hey, you do the time, you do the crime, you do the time. Ain't nobody else doing the crime. This is selective enforcement. They're not even investigating why we're they're just saying we're looking into the FTX scandal. And you know what they'll look into a little bit? Where the money went in the company, how it came out, and blah, and a little this. It'll be like the Epstein investigation. Sam Bankman-Fried, he's a dead man. He'll hang himself or something, or drown himself in the Bahamas. What happened to Sam Bankman-Fried? Well, he was just swimming and ran into a lemon shark and bumped his head. Who knows? Things happen. It's a dangerous world we live in, right? So Bankman-Fried better watch himself. But the idea that nobody's asking, nobody's there, all this stuff, but nobody's saying to Zelensky, when we sent you all of this money, what the hell were you doing investing in crypto? Nobody's going to ask the question. I thought you were buying tanks and aircraft and bombs. You were investing in crypto in the middle of a war? Crypto, really? That's your thing? Hey, got to buy those Doge coins. But we don't even investigate that. No thoughts. And we're not even worried about the fact that tens of millions of dollars is finding its way right back to the Democratic Party. Nice little money laundering circle out of our friggin' pockets, into the U.S. Treasury, over to Ukraine, into a crypto scam, back to the Democratic Party. How sweet is that? No need to investigate that. Clearly no violations of the law there. And we're supposed to sit around and say, yeah, Trump filled his paper out. Well, I mean, come on. He should have just written down, I had to pay off a porn star, like you do. I'm sorry. You will forgive me if I don't fall into the anti-Trump camp that just froths at the mouth every few weeks when one of the myriad of investigations that's always going on against Trump comes back and people say, we got him now. I suspect they'll charge Trump with mopery on the high seas, exposing himself to a blind woman, tag light out. I mean, come on. Everything they can get, they're going to go after Trump. Because they hate him, not because he violated the law, because they hate him. And this is one of the things they also say. Well, he's violated the law so much they finally got him. I don't remember him getting convicted of anything. He's been accused every other Tuesday. Every other Tuesday. Well, Trump was involved in this. When's he going to get charged or convicted? Well, he wasn't. He got away with it. So you make an assertion Garland is a murderer. Do you have any investigation of Garland murdering anybody? Any reports? Is he going to get charged? Any evidence? No. And then a week later, that's a murder Garland got away with. But wait a minute, you claimed he was a murderer, but you never came up with any evidence that he was a murderer. I know, but everybody knows Garland's a murderer. He's gotten away with murder. What are we going to do? I think we should protest that Garland got away with murder. So they make assertion and claim after claim against Trump. And now what they say is he's gotten away with so many crimes. You've accused him of everything. I have yet to see him get found guilty. You accuse him of crimes nonstop, and then you say he's guilty of them. So, I mean, I'm just saying it's a joke to me. It is another hoax. It is part of an elaborate deep state operation, intelligence operation that started long ago, and that the blue cult, the Democrats, are all sitting around clapping their hands together, celebrating, because that's what they do. They don't care whether Trump is guilty, whether there's any evidence. They hate Trump. They want him charged with anything. They want him found guilty because they know he did it. Not that they have evidence that he did it, because they know in their little emotional hearts that they hate him so much that he has to pay for the hate that they have for him. It's absurd. These people are idiots. At any rate, let me look and see if we got any super chats. We'll go to the top and we will go through any possible super chats. And I saw some. So, wow, 776 people. Bella, thank you, Bella. Let's see. Somebody, if anybody has any questions. Okay. Sparky says, I think that the sociopaths couldn't care less. You are correct. Oh, by the way, I think I might be on the mother of all talk shows tomorrow on Galloway. Let me check while we're here. Where's my phone? Oh, no. My phone is gone. It's here. So let's see. Let me check. Am I going to be on Moats tomorrow? I got a text earlier. Oh, I just said, they said, go, might be available to discuss Trump's indictment. I just said, sure, what time? So I'm hoping that maybe I'll hear from him in the morning. And maybe I'll get to be on the mother of all talk shows. That'd be great. And I can talk about some of the stuff I talked here with Mr. Galloway. Garland, I always effort to watch you. The Duran, the New Atlas, the Jimmy Dore Show, Aaron Matei, Max Blumenthal, Glenn Greenwell, and Katie Halpern. Halpern is funny. She's, if you listen to her, she really is a comedian. All right. Metho Nelson. Did the French just bought LNG from China using the Chinese yuan? Yes, yes, yes. Everybody's going to the Chinese yuan. Why wouldn't they? The China wants it. They want it, and they're probably giving people a cheaper deal if you buy it and you want. I offer, and that LNG that they bought, you best believe they got that. What's happening? The China is getting gas from Russia and selling it. They just bought Russian LNG. Sparky says, I often get pulled over for driving an older car in wealthy neighborhoods. Never happened when I drove a newer car. Poor are profiled despite race. Yes, a lot of people are profiled. You know, I remember one case with this guy, and there was a new officer that came to an area here in Anne Arundel County where I live. And he came to in Anne Arundel County. And you got Northern County, which is closer to Baltimore, which is more working class, and you got Southern County, which is Annapolis area, which is, you know, much more wealthy. And a guy got pulled over and harassed by the police in South County, and apparently one of the guy who is wealthy, of course, called the police station and said, "Hey, this guy pulled me over and harassed me," and the lieutenant, apparently, or captain, said to the guy, well, he's from North County. He doesn't understand how we do things around here. In other words, he doesn't understand that down here in this part of the county, you can't treat these rich people like you treat the poor people up in the, you know, the working class, the great unwashed, the hoi polloi. It was bottom line. The cops knew it. He's like, hey, man, he just transferred down here from basically a working class area. He didn't understand that you can't treat these people. So, yes, there are people who get treated differently from the police, depending on poverty that they saw at that, particularly during that time. If they saw a Black or Latino person in a late model Lexus or a Mercedes or something like that, they were getting pulled over and called a drug dealer every time. Didn't matter if they were a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, wealthy, they were getting pulled over and searched as a drug dealer. And that's where all the laws, but you're right, depends on who you are. There's neighborhoods that if they see a couple of white guys and a couple of white guys in a car and they're driving through, they pull them over. You must be coming here for drugs. Well, that's unconstitutional. You can't pull them over. Like a couple of white guys can't ride with black guys and black guys can't ride with white guys. And you're going to get pulled over and they're going to say you're trying to buy drugs. That's unconstitutional. Those are the kind of things we had to deal with. Bad dude Corn Pop says, I can't stand Trump, but this is so wrong. I don't dislike Trump and I don't love Trump. I'm not emotionally, I don't have like an emotional attachment to politics, but I have an emotional attachment to justice. J. Matt says, Garland Nixon for press secretary. Well, I don't think I could stand up to the standards that Karine Jean-Pierre has set. What a freaking, she should work with Kamala Harris. I work I hope someone asked Trump if he now realizes that he was misled on the Skripal poisoning hoax, the Syrian gas hoax, the Soleimani, everything. He was misled on everything because he was green and he didn't know. And they took advantage of that. And that's how they got him to surround himself with the likes of Pompeo and some of these clowns. Let's go to Rockfin. Rockfin, all right. Scott Johnson, thank you, Scott Johnson. Earl Rasmussen, thank you, Earl Rasmussen. All right, here we go. Mariah M says Trump was not the wake-up call. Biden was the wake-up call. Americans are worse off under Biden. Biden's tenure proves that it's the system that works against us. The ruling class is no longer able to distract the masses like they used to. The Restrict Act is just the beginning of the oppression that's coming. Yeah, that kills me. The Restrict Act. We got to stop TikTok. Really? Stop TikTok. Well, what's the hell's the rest of this stuff in the bill? You know, obviously, that again, like it's just like the Patriot Act, right? They claim they got to do something. They didn't give a shit about TikTok. This is not even about TikTok. The Restrict Act gives the president more authority to go after you and me. If you look at that Restrict Act, it's terrible. It has stuff in there like if you help someone that they don't like, they can go at. So now, guess what happens? The truckers in Canada, and you send them $25, and guess what happens? They use the Restrict Act to go after you. Oh, well, you're helping somebody in another country that we don't like. Guess what we're going to do to you? We're going to lock up your bank account, take up everything, take your money. We're going to put economic sanctions against you. We're going to do everything terrible to you because you helped the truckers in Canada. See what I mean? That's what the kind of stuff the Restrict Act is. They will use any of this China crap, any of this Russia crap is all another way to take away our rights. Retro says, what do you think folks can do who live in cities to shield against coming open air 5G digital prisons, aka smart cities and CBDCs? I don't really know. I wish I had an answer to that, and I don't know enough about that to really say anything. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. That's it. I do think that we'll continue to watch this. I do think that a lot of people are going to be very upset. This guy got 70-some million votes, and you're going to go after this guy for some cockamamie thing like this. And here's the thing. It ain't it. This ain't it. They're going to keep charging it. They're going to charge him for George. They're going to charge him for this. They're going to charge him for that. They're going to charge Trump with any. They've been investigating him. And now the reality is this. They're scared of him because they know that the likelihood in 2024, the way things are going, unless something changes, Biden, let's face it, he don't know where the hell he is. He don't know his ass from a hole in the ground. So the truth of the matter is they know that if it ends up Trump Biden, which I don't think it will, because I don't see how Biden makes it that long. He's in a world of trouble. But Trump would beat a lot, basically after 4 years of this friggin' disaster. I don't see how the Democrats don't maybe get squashed unless they just, out and out steal it, which ain't out of the question. But this ain't the end. They're going to charge Trump with everything they can find, one after the other to try to stop him from getting elected. And it's just going to make Trump madder, and he's going to keep running. So it's going to be an interesting time. Hang on, everybody. You can look down there, follow me on Telegram at Garland Nixon on Twitter. I've got a Patreon page. If you can afford to help the channel, patreon.com/Garland Nixon. You can do $5 a month. If you can do $3, if you can do $20, whatever you can afford is greatly appreciated. PayPal, that's appreciated. If you don't want to do PayPal, buy me a coffee. That's great. You can buy me a coffee. You can do a one-time thing, or you can do just like Patreon and be a monthly supporter. Don't forget Cash App. I've got my information, # DC Radio Man. Last but not least, become a member on Rockfin. Doesn't cost anything. Rockfin doesn't have advertisements. So Rockfin is great, like YouTube, with no advertisements or no problem, issues like that. The Rockfin is uncensored. So there's no censorship either. Whatever I put out is going to be on Rockfin. Even if they take it down, and I've had it happen every now and then, YouTube will take one of my videos down. You can still watch it on Rockfin. So be a member on Rockfin in case they throw me off. Also, you ask. Well, you didn't ask. I'm telling you. How does Rockfin stay on the air? And since they don't, do advertisements or anything like that, they do allow subscribers. If you can afford it, please become a subscriber to my channel on Rockfin for $14.99 a month. If you sign up for a year, it's only like $12 a month. I do a subscribers only show every Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with Scott Ritter. But I certainly appreciate it if you could sign up and become a subscriber under my show. It would help my channel. I'd certainly appreciate that. If you can't afford it, that's fine. Just become a member. You'll see everything except the subscriber only show on Wednesday mornings. But it would be greatly appreciated if you could afford to help. If not, if you can't afford it, don't do it. Thanks a lot, everybody. Certainly appreciate it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to bed. I will see you guys tomorrow.